Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is Wandara, MC Wandara again, and we are here to continue with our discussions, sharing ideas and talking about what we do as people in this city and especially also in the province and the entire Canada. I just always have to mention that most of the time as a black people we are seen as very passive people, and to me it's like it's important to mention the fact that we are very active and also very proactive people. It's important to know that. It's important to mention that, and also that we have our members in the community who are part of the government of Canada, who are part of the municipalities, who are part of school system, who are part of anything you can see around. And we are all contributing to the betterness of this country, of this nation. And it's important for us to keep those things recorded somehow, somewhere for the young generation. That could be an inspiration. They can take it over, and from that, as example, they can move on and build something stronger. So here we are. I will not say more. On my left side here, you have my brother Richard. He will introduce himself before and what he does in life. He will talk a little bit about himself and what he does, and then I will continue with our conversation.
Okay. Well, thank you, Wandara, the master drummer. Thank you for inviting me to the show today. My name is
You're welcome.
My name is Richard Sharpe. I am a community person. I'm also a public servant. Some people call me a bureau activist, a bureaucrat activist. I have been working in the federal government for the last more than 26 years. Mm-hmm. I just recently left, actually, and I moved over to the Ontario government. In the federal public service, I had many jobs. I started as a graphic designer, so I had an art background. I was an artist. I moved over into policy. I moved over into negotiations. I moved over to corporate reporting, very boring stuff. But it was good that it gave me a good foundation for things that I wanted to really do. Because while I was in government, I was also working on things like human rights. I was working with unions. I was working on equity and human equity and workplace rights for my colleagues and people around me. I got very good at doing that. I got very good at protecting employees and speaking to power. Finding ways to speak to power so that they could hear what we were saying. I ended my career at the Department of Justice as an executive. It took me a very long time to become an executive in the federal government. I was leading something called an Anti-Racism and Anti-Discrimination Secretariat, which was a group that was responsible for addressing racism and other forms of discrimination for other groups within our department. But I had been doing this work all my life, so I was doing it inside of my department, but also doing this work outside, across the public service, speaking with leaders and other departments, and working with people to get to a place where we could do this work effectively for all of our peoples across the government. I did take 2 years out of government to work in community to support something called the United Nations International Decade for People of African Descent.
Yes.
This is something that is very important for people of African descent, for black people in this country. This decade, from 2015 to 2024, allows us to focus on and celebrate our greatness as peoples, but also to focus on initiatives and activities and projects to help to address the challenges that we face in this society. The challenges of anti-black racism, the challenges of white supremacy, the challenges of the fact that every generation of black people that are born in this country do worse than the previous generation. That has a lot to do with the system. This doesn't happen in other parts of the world. Our people do better on the continent, in the Caribbean, but not here in Canada. So I'm leaving that work, although I very much love the work. It was not finished, but I left it to go to the province for a bigger job. I will be the director of the Black Equity branch for what's called Treasury Board. So I will make sure that we have Black inclusion, Black equity within the government of Ontario, because Ontario has the largest population of Black people in Canada. We have to make sure that the government of Ontario...
So those things are important to know. I thought it was Quebec.
No, it's also Ontario. I'll be moving to Ontario. And my French is probably not good enough to be working in Quebec, but I do have some. But yeah.
Oh, but so this is so important, because now you are getting me into a point of thinking about so much things to consider as we go along with the decades like for Black people. I was wondering myself also, where are we now with all that? What was the real concrete impact? What has it brought to us as empowerment, as development? What really have we gained from it? I was also thinking about, when you talk about equity and all that, I was thinking about all the resources that you see, like the government and different level is saying that they have resources to support Black people's businesses and all that. But I realized that, for example, you give me money that is supposed to help me with my business, right? But you put the money in the same hand of those who are limiting me to access this mean. So even if I have a project, then accessing this mean to fulfill my project will be also complicated, because you take it there and put it in their hand, and the same criteria is the same thing I should go through, which is in the end means everything that is done is multiplied by 0. You see where I'm coming to, right? So I was thinking about that, and so it's good that you're stating something, not directly to it, but you've been there to think about what should we do, because these are concrete things that we are all supposed to reflect on. Okay, you give money to us, yes, but do you sit with us and find another way that is an alternative option that allow us really to access the resource, so that in concrete, like practically, we have our businesses leveraging this mean to, kind of fulfill anything obstacle that we do, kind of, break down any obstacle, so that our business can rise. So as a community, we can also improve our living and all that. You see, these are things that I think about. But anyways, so coming back to all the works that you have done, do you now think that through COVID, you have kind of, with all this wide experience that you have, what has happened through COVID?
Yeah, well, we can talk about that. I think that's very important to realize that COVID in some ways changed everything.
Yeah, that's
so it changed everything, because I've been doing this work up until COVID for 25 years.
Yeah,
and we were making a little bit of movement, a little bit of change. I created a number of. I worked with my people inside government to create some organizations. We created an employee group of Black employees in the federal government. Some employees are suing. Black employees are suing the federal government for $2.5 billion. My group was working with the government to address the issues that those employees are suing the government for. I worked with my people to create a local group, the 613-819 Black Hub. I worked on that group with Robin Brown, and that group is still going strong. They're doing some good work. We got a local services board and other areas. I also created another group that was focused specifically on the UN International Decade for People of African Descent. So this was to create a group that is in community, for community to push into government initiatives to support, like what you were saying, provide funding to support nonprofit organizations and charities, to provide funding to support their so they can buy equipment.
Yeah.
And so these things were happening before COVID hit. So when COVID hit, I think we have to realize what happened to all of us. When COVID hit, we all were forced to pause. We were all forced to stop working, stop going to school, stop going outside. And everyone came home and sat in their chairs and reflected on what their lives were, what the meaning of their lives were. Everyone felt mortal, like we could die at any time, right? Because this virus was so dangerous that it was going to kill us all. So while that was happening, while everyone was in this moment of self-reflection, we saw our brother die in 8 minutes and 46 seconds, calling for his mother, killed him. And we were all in this space of self-reflection at that time. And because we were all in that space of self-reflection because of COVID, everyone reacted in the same way. Black people, Asian people, white people. And so that put an enormous amount of pressure on governments. We put pressure on ourselves to do something because we realized at that moment, so that's the first time in North America that white people and other people realize what it means to be black in this country, what in this continent, what Black death looks like in this continent, what Black death looks like when we're in schools, spiritual death, emotional death, in schools, at work, when we're walking through the malls and security is following us, going across the border, immigration, healthcare. So that provided, so COVID, and with that moment, changed everything. So what happened was that government, at least the federal government, and other levels of government sort of say, well, what can we now do for black people? This is the first time they're asking this. Because we were visible minorities before. We weren't black. We didn't have our own identities. We're not even black. I'm Jamaican Canadian. You are, what are you? Burundian. I don't know what your heritage is, but you're not black.
I'm a Kemet man.
You're a Kemet.
Yeah.
You're a Kemet man.
Yeah.
And so am I.
Yes, brother.
Yeah, so but we're Kemet, but in this place we're identified by our skin color. So that meant that everything changed, and it allowed for us to focus on us for the first time, and everybody had to focus on us. So we were able to move things more quickly. But I would say that was 2 years ago. Yeah. So now things are slowing down. Now we're going back to the place where, like, well, we don't want to talk about the Kemet man anymore. Yeah. We want to move to a different group. And so many of the things that we tried to push, like the monies for communities, for businesses, for example, the healthcare, action plans for black people, the UN Decade brought in initiatives to address anti-black racism in this country, are slowing down because we don't have that. People have the different focus now. The economy is bad.
So I think that we are shifting to a survival mode. You see, when you're surviving, then nothing else matters. Just you going through life a daily basis, right? That's the whole thing that you focus on. Yeah. And that could be also another problem, right? Because now that if you're only thinking of surviving, like how can I reach tomorrow, then there are some meaningful things that you're not accomplishing, right?
Yeah, that's right. And you can't think strategically about what you want for your people. If you're hungry and you're looking for something to eat, you're looking for a place to live, you're concerned that they will take away your place to live. You have to focus on that. You have to focus on your children. If your children are in crisis in school, we have to go to the schools. We don't have time to do our work. We don't have time to strategize. So I think that part of that is what this society creates for us as Kemet men and women, that we are always distracted with trying to survive and not planning for the future of our people.
Yeah. So we are ending to planning to survive and not planning to have life. That's something else, right?
Yeah.
This is significant.
Yeah.
So I was if you are to really, let's say, break down. I just don't want to get into a deeper analysis of anything, because you know that all that you stated could be like an entire year interview. Like we could come here every second day just to go through this, different elements that you stated here, because all the groups that you build and you put together that is working, and all the works that are done by different groups that you created, and then also the impact the work will have on those who are working for the group and for those who are benefiting from the support that the group is working. It's like different ramification of so many things to consider. So if I have to just not get into so brighter details, and I come to really asking you, what are the let's say what are the very important skills or knowledge or talents that you think you have come out of the COVID with? Because I know you already mentioned the fact that most of us have realized how mortal we are, and how our life also, like someone in the other interview said, like we realize that how the government can decide to stop you from doing anything, and they can control your life also. A lot of people did not think about this before. You see, like when you can go out, when you should cover your nose, when you should breathe even. And then that's another subject, but we're not going to it, because all the call from George Floyd was, just let me breathe. And even us, we are not, someone is not suffocating us, like physically, literally, straight, right? But daily basis, most of us are really asking to breathe. And that's not a joke, that's not a funny game even happening. It's a real life being disturbed by many small mechanical, I can say systemical microaggressions, micro-violence. It's like, I was making a joke, sometimes I make jokes, so I say to someone, if you want, there are simple elements, you want to know who is the racist that you work with, first of all, cross the person in a hallway and they do this. You did not ask you did not say anything. The person that it's how the person is not feeling well, just looking at you. It took me time to understand those things. It's a non-verbal expression that is profound. For example, if you are a cleaner somewhere, the person would prefer, even if the person can go somewhere else, they will prefer to walk on your wet floor and say sorry. But the person is not sorry. There is so many ways around, but you're walking with your dirty shoes where you know that you will dirty what I'm actually cleaning, and those are small things. For you when you don't think about, it's just like, okay, he or she doesn't know what she's doing. But it's all that to make you feel bad. It's all that condescending manners. But anyways, there are very, very small things like this. And then I was thinking, like, maybe we should have a podcast about understanding different expressions of the microaggressions. Like for our kids in school, because most of kids don't talk. They're afraid to not talk. The system is shutting them up. I have my kids also, sometimes they don't talk. And I have watched many kids since I do drumming and public speaking with kids around, and I realized through storytelling that most of kids don't talk. So why is it that they don't talk? How can we understand those? It's just the consequence of something, a systemic behavior. You know?
Yeah, I guess that, well, you said a lot of things.
Yeah.
But I wanted to go back a bit to the COVID and what happened to us. I think that there are three ways that you can control your population.
Okay.
One first way is to make people afraid.
Yes.
If they're afraid, they're going to want you to make them feel safe. Misinform them. If people don't have information, they're going to look for information, and to isolate people. If you tell people they can't go certain places, they can't meet, they can't organize, they can't protest. That's the way you control people. When you control the people, they're willing to do whatever you tell them to do. And then, like you said, people, well, they wore masks, they didn't go certain places, they didn't travel, they didn't breathe because they were told that they shouldn't breathe right now.
Yes.
Right. So that's the first thing. I think we have to realize what happened to us during COVID, because it's taken a while for people to say, hey, that wasn't good. We lost something in our communities when we were afraid. We didn't have good information, and we were not able to move. We were isolated in our homes,
yes.
Right? Doing video school and video work, isolated, right? There was no organizing, there was no activism. So we need to think about that. I think that in terms of the skills, you had asked a question about the skills that I developed. Actually, COVID was good for someone like me because I'm an introvert. I like to be by myself.
Okay.
I don't like to be around lots of people. I do lots of presentations because I think that it's important. I have some important things to say. But for me, I did my best work when COVID was on. I reached the most people in video calls. For me, my family suffered. My family was not happy. They were stuck at home. They wanted to be with other people. But I was fine. And so for people like me, working in COVID, I showed everybody what I can do from my basement in my little corner.
Yeah.
Right? When I'm in my office, like you said, the microaggressions, macroaggressions, people are afraid of me. They don't give me space. Microaggressions and macroaggressions, I used to be so tired when I came home from work. Because every day I have to deal with the smiles, I have to deal with, oh, not yet, Richard. Oh, Richard, you're too qualified. Oh, Richard, I had to deal with that all the time. When I was at home with COVID, I didn't have to deal with any racism. Yeah. I didn't have to deal with any of that. So I think we're finding now when people go back to work, there's a lot of black people, a lot of indigenous people, a lot of women say, I don't want to go back to that. I was working fine at home. There was no macroaggressions.
Okay.
So the people that want to go back to work are people who didn't experience those things. So a lot of white men want to go back into the office. It's really good. I miss being in the office to talk to my friends and get my promotions. But for us, we didn't have that experience.
It was a total different reality. Eh?
It's a different reality.
Yeah,
for sure.
So this I think nobody talks about those dimensions of the COVID impact, right? Understanding the simple fact that a lot of people are preferring even to stay to work from home than going back into those heavy. It's as a master drummer, I call it heavy vibration. It's a heavy energy, and then those heavy energies can the burnouts You remember there was a certain time. I think 8 years, around 7-8 years now, that a lot of people from even federal or provincial government workers started having burnouts, like a lot. It's just due to all those things. I remember one time doing Uber, and I picked up a lady. In our short conversation, ended up to know that she is one of a big, someone close to a minister or something. And then I asked her about equity and the participation of the black community within her department. Okay, and here was the answer from the lady. She's like, I recently made with my team. We did all our best. We recruited a lot of black people. So and most of them don't say anything. They are not complaining. I think everything is fine. So I don't think in my team, I don't think there is a problem. So I asked her, just follow my conversation. I asked her, so that means in your department, all those black people working within your department, nobody has a concern. And you think that's okay. Or they just want you to hear what you want to hear to leave them alone. And she was pissed off when I said that. No, what do you think? No, what are you saying, you know? I'm like, you see, you are a serious problem.
Well, yeah,
I said to her, the day you go back, try to have more conversation with people. Try to come down to understanding how they feel at the workplace. Try to even have some interaction personally with them. I don't know, I don't want to get your contact, but if you can help better, then you will get some data after a real interconnection with them, because what you're saying is, believe me, they're only pretending that all is well because this is what you want to see. So you see, yeah, go ahead. You want to say something?
Oh yeah. I think you're exactly right. I think it's we lose our humanity in our workplaces.
Exactly.
And it's important for leaders, white leaders, racialized black leaders, to understand that in order for us to maintain our humanity as black people, it's important for white people and other racialized groups to also be able to maintain their humanity. And I say that because when the microaggressions are being inflicted upon us, the people who are inflicting the harm, they're dehumanizing us, but they're also dehumanizing themselves. They have to live with the fact that they're doing these things, especially when you point it out to them.
Yeah.
So, as you said, it's important to have these conversations, these open conversations in your workplace, so that you can understand how people really feel.
Yes.
Because most of, like you said, like the children in schools, most black folk in work or Kemet people in work don't speak up. They're quiet because it's not safe to speak.
Yes.
So that's why we created a group for black employees, so we could speak, and then I would speak on behalf of all of the employees, black employees in government.
Yeah.
And so people felt, okay, we feel more comfortable with that. Richard is speaking. But I'm saying, well, no, you have to find your voice too.
Exactly.
It cannot just be me. I'm not going to be there.
Not all the time.
Yeah, I'm not going to be there forever. In fact, I've left now.
Yeah.
So who's going to take my place?
Okay.
What I've said to folks is that many of you have to take this role.
So they will continue suffering in silence.
Unless they collectively decide to speak.
That's the way.
So there are groups that are continuing to form in departments. I pushed to have this happen in other departments, and now we're seeing that. So there's a capacity for us to be able to protect ourselves and to be able to raise these issues in a way that is that helps our people to, be able to raise our issues and to be able to look for solutions for the things that happen in the workplace that make us feel not included.
Yeah. I have so much to say about this thing, but you see my personal view about certain things, okay, that nobody talks about. For example, you see, as someone who is graduated in political science, I have come to understand certain simple things, okay. For example, minorization. The right synonym of it is marginalization. Because if you take in the entire population in Canada, we cannot give a confirmation that people of color are less than white folks. It's the opposite. But it's a psychological game backed by a system, right? So understanding just that is significant, because nobody can give you a job because, oh, this is Richard, he's a good looking man, and then, oh yes, we want some of us because you look good, or because of your color, then we accept you among us. Nobody will do that. We accept you because we have seen that you qualify. So do not tell me that you're getting me in a workplace because you favor me due to my color. No, tell me you are competent as it should be, and you are the nice fit to that position. This is the opposite of condescending attitudes. You see, those are simple things, but we should kind of, because let's go back to the political way of thinking, is that, okay, if I marginalize you simply because you belong to a certain group of people with different needs, and your needs are particular, your needs are not fitting to the needs of the social frame that we created for ourselves. Mm-hmm. Therefore, you are minorized by the system we are putting in place. Mm-hmm. So systemically, I can still have my eyes on how many of you are coming to get the job that we have created for us. Mm-hmm. Can you check if you are from a minority, from black community, natives, Asia?
Yeah.
And at a certain point, it's okay. The idea is politically correct, but practically, do not tell me my brother Richard is working with the federal government of Ontario because you accepted him just because he is a black. It's because he's got the experience, because he's got the knowledge and the skills, and just tell me, yes, we value who you are, we value what you have gained as experience, we need it. This is the reason why you fit into that position. I just want this honesty.
Yeah, well, you know what, I have a slight twist on that. I agree.
Yes.
We should always be hired into positions because we can do the job, we're skilled, we have these skills. But in reality, the reality is that people are hired into these jobs because they are a good fit. So you have all white teams. They're all good fit. Okay. Some of them can do the job. Most of them can do the job. Maybe some of them can't. But someone liked them and picked them because they felt comfortable with them. They were part of their group. So what oftentimes happens when you have teams that are, you say they're all the same, homogenous, they're all the same, is that they don't work as good as some of these teams that are very diverse. Blacks, Asians, people with disability, whites. Those teams work really well. Okay. So the reason why they work really well is because they have not only diversity in skin color, but they have diversity in thought, experience, life experience. Yeah. They see the world differently. Yeah. They see problems differently. The group that went from the same school, they have the same religious background, the same racialized background, they're all white. They don't have diversity of thought. So when I'm hired, and I always say this, I want you, yes, I want you to hire me, yes, because I have the skills. I've been working in government for 26 years. I've got lots of skills. I can do stuff that a lot of people can't do. I have ability to speak. I have all of these skills. I can do all kinds of things. Yeah. But I also want to be hired because I am black. Because my blackness brings to my workplace an experience, a knowledge, a history that you do not have in most of these workplaces. When I arrived in a workplace, I was on a management team where there were 15, 20 other mostly white people, white passing people. I was the only black person on the management team. Yeah. So when I speak about any subject, my perception of what I say has a different value, has a different impact. So I always say to people, people say, I don't want to be hired because I'm black. I said, you do want to be hired because you're black. You want to be hired because blackness or being a Kemet man has value. And we have identified that it's valuable for us to have blacks, Asians, all kinds of people. We need to be reflective of Canada. That is a value. And when it's not a value, then we have what you're saying. Well, people are tokenized. They're token. Oh, we have a black person here. We check the box. Put them in the corner and not have them do anything. Yeah. So that's not what you don't want. You want people to come in and have value. So that when I speak, I'm not just speaking for all black people, but I have a perspective that's different from everybody else that looks the same.
Yeah, because to me, it's like, even if I'll give an example like me. Growing up, I have been with everybody from every corner of the world. So as a leader, I don't see even no limitation in anybody. So that's my perspective. So I said, even us as a black person being a leader, is the riches that the country benefits from it. So when you limit those people with all the potential they have, it's not only them, it's also the limitation you bring into the society and to the entire nation. Mm-hmm. And this is important for the system to know. Because you cannot, let's say for example, Quebec brings like a lot of people in Quebec, but with taxpayers of Quebec. Mm-hmm. But those people are not so well fitted after with so many racial barriers so that they have to cross over to Ontario, most of them. Mm-hmm. Simply because they want to feel okay, they want to be accepted, they want to be productive, they want, you know, a recognition of who they are and all that they brought to the country. So it's very complicated. So let's say, you know, we can talk. I think with the time we will have to meet again because I will organize myself some stuff coming up. I will have a lot of talks because I think I have to start also working on my call, and then yeah, it's important. So we will talk a lot in the coming days, coming years. So if you are to define what is resilience, as you are with all, you know, all the luggage that you have full of tools of knowledge and skills, how can you, in short words, define resilience to us?
I define resilience as being able to work or live in a place that is hostile and difficult, that you're able to be productive and do work that is meaningful for yourself and your community, your family, and you're able to be, while you're doing that, physically, mentally, and spiritually well and grounded. If you're able to do those things, and I try all the time to do those things, I try to be physically healthy, mentally healthy, and spiritually healthy, then you have the building blocks for resilience. Okay. That's what I think, because you can't just say that, oh, you just need to be strong.
Yes.
Because that gives you a heart attack. After you've been working for 15, 20 years, you're going to have a heart attack because you were strong, yeah, but you weren't.
Yeah, you didn't breathe enough. So
you breathe enough, and
yes,
you didn't have a place to be.
Yeah.
You need to have people around you that love and care for you.
Yeah.
You cannot do it yourself.
Yes.
You have to have community.
Yes.
Community ensures resilience. If the community is strong, then the people in that community or part of that community are strong.
Wow, that's so powerful. This is a very holistic perspective of defining resilience. I think I have no more words to add on that. Thank you so much for coming, and I hope that in a very brief future we can meet again. And because since we're still alive, I think we still continue to talk and reflect on our reality, our community, and maybe open some path that the younger generation can find a way that they can also manifest themselves and become greater, so we can develop our communities and always be brighter and greater, always working towards the light, because that's where we are here, working to the path that leads us to the light. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. This was my brother Richard Sharpe and myself, MC Wandera. See you very soon.